Do you need a lot of setups to make money? Let's look at one powerful setup. We can find millions of strategies, but we do not have to trade them all. The best traders trade a few setups and they make money. One or two setups can go a long way. Let's look at one setup that can change your trading. Hi guys, welcome back. We're back with another video. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell icon to be the first to watch when we upload any new content. Also check out our website on mmkforexgroup.co.za. That's mmkforexgroup.co.za. Hi guys, hope you guys are doing good. We're going to talk about a setup that can make you a lot of money if you are disciplined enough to be selective and if you are patient enough to actually wait for the setup. Very simple setup. Basically what we're going to look for in this case, we're going to use a downtrend scenario, right? And the first thing that we want to talk about before we look at the structure or anything, we're going to talk about how a base area or an order block weakens, right? That's basically if we have an order block at this region, right, and if the market continuously taps that area multiple times, right, if we get something like this order block or base area is considered as a weak area now, because now it's been getting hit many times. That gives it the probability of this area or this order block to actually be taken out. So we're going to look for something like this, right? Because this base area has weakened, right? It's no longer fresh. When we are talking about a fresh order block, we're looking at something like this, where the market hits the area, all right, breaks structure, gets back to the area, right, and then we can execute shorts from that zone, right? In this case, this area is considered to be fresh, right? As you can see, we only had the price coming back to this area for the first time. That's one hit. But if we have an area or a region or an order block or a base area getting tapped multiple times, like what we have in this scenario, right, we expect that area to get broken, right? So now the setup that we're going to talk about here is very simple, right? You definitely have to go back test this, right? That's the only way that you're going to understand this. What we're going to look for, basically, if we have a scenario where the market is going down, right, giving us those lower lows, all right, and let's say we have an order block right here. Maybe we had something like this, all right, and we had a move to the upside, something like this, right? This area becomes very fresh, right? This area becomes very fresh. So as market is moving down, right, we are usually going to have something like this, right? This area keeps getting hit, right, as the market is moving down, right? So we're going to get a rejection, and then we see price playing around that area multiple times, right? So how price or how much time price takes at an order block is very important. How many hits and the reaction at that area is something you have to watch. So in this case, as we are hitting this area, what's going to happen is, remember, we are focusing on this points of interest, right? The market might push down to the area, and then what we're going to have, remember, for us to look for longs, right, to be on the safe side, what we want to see is, as the market is moving down, all right, as the market is moving down, what we want to see is, before we think of buying, yes, the market can tap the order block, right? The market can tap the order block, right? But for you to be sure, right, and for you to have confidence to enter a trade, you're going to wait for a swing structure, right, or a structure point to be broken. In this case, you're going to wait for the market to push up and change the structure. Once the structure is changed, you then focus on these areas, right? You wait for price to give you a good correction or price approach back to this area, and then we can look for longs, right? So in this case, as this area is getting weakened, right, we can see this area was getting hit. If the market pushes up, usually the market will do something like this, right? And then at this area, when we get this low, this is when we actually see a break of structure, right? We see a break of structure. We see the market moving up, right? So we're going to get something like this, right? So anything above this, remember, as the market is pushing up, right, we get multiple breaks of structure. That's even better, right? And then our points of interest now becomes this area. Why? Because remember, we had this sensitive area, the base weakened, right? So we are going to look for trades below that area, because this would be the decision point which is responsible for the break of these structures, and most importantly, the break of this weakening base, right? So what we're going to wait for that, we're going to wait for price approach or a correction, right, down to that area. Slowly price gets there, right? The first thing that we want to see is the imbalance, right? Once you see price move away from this area, right? I'm going to show you on the chart shortly, right? So this is very important. So as price is moving down, right, we're going to wait for price to hit this area, and you can also apply the same thing, right? Wait for price to move up, hit your order block, right? And the first thing that you want to keep an eye on is this structure point. So from this area, we've got price pushing up. You're then going to focus on these areas, right? That will be a clean trade for you if you wait for that, and then this then becomes your safest take profit, right? As you can see, that higher high becomes an area which you can actually target for a take profit, right? Very simple. So that's what you're going to look for, right? You're going to look for trades that give you such, right? So we're going to back test, right? Look at some pairs, and the first thing we want to do is we're going to start from the higher time frame, because we really want to understand what a pair is doing, right? So looking at USD-CHF, this is one thing that we can see. Price is actually moving for an order block, because as price is moving up, we had a break of structure, as you can see there. After the break of structure, price then came back to this order block and continued going up, right? So we have an idea of where price is coming from, right? That's very important, right? Where price is coming from. Right, so in this case, this was going to be a confirmation, right? By understanding the higher time frame. Sorry about that. Yes. So by understanding the higher time frame, right, you'd understand that this is actually a structure point. If you looked at the monthly, as you can see, as the market was dropping, we had a lower low, lower high. So we had a high high in your higher time frame. That's very good, right? So as price then goes down, remember you're looking for an order block, right? In this case, we didn't really have a nice example, right? As you can see, we had this area getting tapped multiple times, right? As you can see, as price tapped this area multiple times, right? So after price tapped this area, we didn't really have a big one. If we saw something like this here, this was going to become a strong order block, but as you can see, we had a rally base, right? So once we had this base, as you can see, we already retested below, right? And then we had that burst in price, and that's what we want to look for, right? That burst in price. So this zone then becomes the important zone, right? That order block then becomes the important zone from this area, right? As you can see, price then gave us price approach back to that area, right? Back to that area, and as you can see, price has been moving up, right? Price has been moving up. So if we go to the daily, to look at this example down here, this is what we can see. This is how price acted at this order block. As you can see, price got into the area, right? Giving you this zone right here, right? Some liquidity was grabbed. So from this area, and as price pushed up, breaking structure, all right, price then made its way back down here, and as you can see, price failed to close below that low, right? So the order block that we're focusing on, remember, in the weekly is this one. This is where we can see price moving up. But if you go to the daily, we can then now try, you know, get a better zone or a better entry, and as you can see, you had a nice pattern down there, right? You had a nice pattern, and as price pushed up, we also had an area where the base kept on weakening, right? Remember what we spoke about? The base weakens, and then look at that, the imbalance, right? We see price shoot up. That's what we want to see. So what becomes important? The zone responsible for that. But in this case, as you can see, this was going to be the area we're focusing on. Price didn't really touch it, as you can see, but price got there, but price did not really reach that area. So these are the examples that we're going to look for, and we can find this in our social time frames also. I mean, your 4 hour, right? Anyway, you can find this, but you just have to make sure that you understand what's really happening, right? So here's another one, right? Just by looking at this, we can see we had an order block there, and then that area kept on getting tapped multiple times. So this area became weak, right? Remember, it was responsible for this big move up. This area now becomes weak, and guess what? We finally have a break of structure, right? So after the break of structure, remember what we want to see, the imbalance. So the zone responsible for that weakening base, or this order block to be broken, is this one, right? You can see where price then started moving, and then that becomes your points of interest. And as you can see, price actually got back to that area, and we continued moving to the downside, right? So these are things that you can find in any time frame, right? As long as if you understand what's really happening in your higher time frames. All right, so we're going to look at another example, GU. All right, so if you look at GU, it's clear to understand that, you know, price has been moving down, and price is actually back down here, right? And also we can see some form of a pattern playing out, right? But we're just going to follow the market structure. Fine. If you go to the weekly, this is what we have, right? We can clearly see that from this area, like if we look at the recent price action, this is what we can see, right? We can see that, okay, this is a nice area. If we go to the daily, this is what we can find. In this case, we had some weakening base here, as you can see, and then this area then becomes our points of interest. And as you can see, you know, the market has been moving away from this for days now. If we go to the 4 hour, this is what we have, right? The bigger picture, right? So our rejections were here, and we looked for our decision point above our weakening base. And as you can see, we had, you know, price moving good. If you go to the H1 time frame, you actually had good trades, right? Because I mean, you had a trade here, there was no confirmation, but after the break of structure, as you can see, not really much of the weakening base, but now you understand what price is doing. Look at that, right? This becomes an order block, right? We can look at how price left and broke structures. We also had some weakening base here, as you can see how price, you know, reacted to that, and then we look for something above. As you can see, this was our order block. We also had some liquidity being taken there. This was definitely a news event. And then the same thing, we apply the same thing. Price pushes down, breaks structure, right? After breaking structure, remember, we look at the weakening base, we find the weakening base. Here's the weakening base, meaning we look for an order block above the area. So from this area, this is what we have. And as you can see, price did actually move back to that order block and continued moving down. So this can be found everywhere, guys. You just have to go and back test this, right? Remember, I'll always repeat the same thing, right? You have to go and back test. This can be found anyway, guys. So if we look at NASDAQ, right, where this area being created, fine, right? So price got into that region. If we look at the weekly or the monthly, right, this is the region we are talking about here, right? It's a nice, you can see we had an engulfing pattern, which then broke structure on NASDAQ, right? So this was actually the price approach that we're looking for. Price got into the area. So, you know, price can actually push up, right up to this supply zone right there, right? As long as the structure continues to the upside, right? So if we look at this from the daily, this is what we can see. Price got into the area, and remember, you're going to wait for the break of structure first. And you also had, you know, head and shoulder pattern playing out there. So after the break of structure, remember, what do you look for? The zone responsible, and this was the zone which was responsible. As you can see, this is where we had then price break structure. Price then got down there, broke more structures, as you can see, and just returned to your order blocks. So I think we can clearly see this in the 4 hour. Yeah, there you go. So price got to this area, and then look at what we have. All right, this base area gets weakened, and then the question we are asking ourselves, what's responsible for that? The zone below. This is where we had the bullish engulfing. Look at that. Price that got into that area and just continued shooting up. All right, guys, I hope you learned something from this video. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell icon to be the first to watch when we upload any new content. And also check out our free Telegram channel. Find the link in the description below for free signals and free setups.